On January 27th, I got a phone call from one of my valets in the evening. It's never good when I get a phone call. I'm like, oh God, what is it? They're not calling to say hi. There's a problem. So I get a call from this valet and he's like, Alex, I just had a car broken into. I said, what happened? He said, I'm sitting there and the car came in and he said, I'm just turning around, I'm gonna leave. So what happens, and I have to admit it probably would have happened to me too, my defenses become less because a car is just turning around. I'm not paying that much attention to it. So the next car comes in, he's paying attention to that car, and while he's talking to the next car, this car must have parked and he didn't realize it and busted out a window. But what he did hear is the crash. So the valet's attention gets diverted and he starts running towards that, the sound and the car. I don't necessarily advise that, but this valet, he's a bigger guy and he was really protective over his parking lot. I train my valets, this is your parking lot, protect it, protect all the cars that are in it, clean up the trash and all of that, and this valet took that to heart. So when he heard the crash, it was a natural instinct to chase after the sound, and he went running for the car. Well, the criminal must have saw that and kind of got out of the car and started running away in the opposite direction himself. There was a car waiting for him and he hopped in the back, but before doing so, he had dropped a lot of the items on the floor. That is when the valet called me and I told him immediately, call the police. Now, I don't want to get into so much of our liability. In a sense, we are not responsible if someone breaks the glass of a car. Now, if we leave it open, yes, we are responsible. But if we leave it locked and we lock it and secure it as much as possible and there's proper lighting and everything, there's only so much we can do. And was the valet distracted or was he doing his job? The valet technically was doing his job because he was helping the next customer. But anyway, getting back to the fact, the car was broken into. We called the police. The police are now on their way. I tell them now to go inside and get the manager of the restaurant. So the manager of the restaurant comes out and they're like, okay, what car is it? So we point to the car, what it is. So we now have to find out who this car belongs to. This restaurant's pretty large and they can have 100 people in there at one time. And the last thing you want to do is start going around to everybody's table saying, hey, did you just park this car? This car got broken into. So we have to discreetly kind of eliminate it and say, hey, did you drive this certain? And it was a rental car. So the customer came outside and they said, yes, we did drive a rental car. And when we get them outside the door, we said, hey, unfortunately, your car just got broken into. We witnessed it. We chased the person down and the police are on their way. But before it got to that point, this customer became extremely irate. They never said what was stolen, but something was stolen out of the car that really pissed them off, to the point where they pulled out a gun and brandished it. And brandish means not necessarily pointing it at the valet, but they showed it and be like, hey, you see what's up here? So the valet was starting to get nervous because he felt the valet was involved because the valet couldn't give him a clear answer on what exactly happened. So I hate that something like that had to happen, but at that same moment, the police pulled up. So that didn't escalate anymore. And in fact, I think, and I kind of commend the police officers for de-escalating the situation even more. The valet was very defensive, saying, I didn't do anything. I'm just trying to tell you what happened, where the customer was upset. So the police come over, they discuss everything that happened, they get all the information, and they're basically doing a one-on-one interview with each party. So after everything was said and done, simply put, the police officer told the renter of the car, not the owner, but the renter of the car, to please turn around, and they ended up arresting him. They arrested him for obvious reasons because he pulled out a gun and brandished it towards the valet in a threatening manner. The only time you're ever able to do that if you feel threatened. And obviously the valet wasn't threatening him, but yet he felt the need to intimidate the valet, and that's what he was getting arrested for. Now, the valet, bless his heart, didn't want to really press charges. He just wanted to explain to the customer that, hey, I wasn't involved. And what the cops said, which was really not funny, but it was actually accurate, hey, if you think this valet did it, then this valet is pretty good because there was another break-in about 2 blocks away, and there was another break-in about 3 blocks away, well, all within the last hour. And what happened, I call them these wrecking crews. These are the criminals that are going. They're just hitting each parking lot. And if there's major, parking lots and major areas, they're just hitting one at a time after time. So what I try to do is notify all of my employees as quickly as possible that this is going on. This person just got hit. This parking lot got hit. Really make sure you tighten up your belts, make sure all the podiums are locked, make sure you're not leaving any keys in the car or anything like that, and just keep a heads up. So these are some of the things that we have to do. So of course that happened on January 27th. The very next day, January 28th, I get another phone call from another parking lot. And they're like, hey, Alex, what kind of car was it? I'm sorry. I think it was a Ford Explorer. Ford Explorer gets hit. And the person wasn't too angry or anything. And they only discovered it when they went to go get the car and they see the glass on the ground. So, of course, they send me pictures and let the management of the restaurant know again in that particular case. And the people were much nicer. Called the police, and this is going on hardcore. And of course, before that night was finished, I get another call and they're like, hey, Alex, they actually got 2 cars in this parking lot, and it was a Honda Accord Coupe. Now, what sucks about this restaurant, I love this restaurant to death, but the parking lot is not connected to the restaurant. It's actually next door. So even if we're concentrating and trying to listen as much as possible, if they break glass, we're not going to hear it. And we're in and out of that parking lot probably every 3-4 minutes, but it only takes a criminal a matter of time. They're probably watching the valets. They're watching the valets. Okay, there he's gone. At least I know we have 3 to 4 minutes now to get into this car. They break the glass. We will not know until we come back to the next car. And the next car, we're actually in. It's encapsulated. So again, we won't even hear it until we get out the car and we're running. So it's really unfair for the valets to ever get blamed for anything like this, but yet people's natural instinct is, hey, I just turned my keys over to you. I just turned my car over to you. I expect a level of security, which is absolutely correct. We do everything, which is lock the car. We safely park the car, obviously. We lock the car, and it's in a lit parking lot. Now, unless we physically put a security guard in front of your car to make sure nothing happens to it, that's beyond our control. But if you don't have anything in your back seat, we don't have to worry about that anymore. So these are some of the things that happened in the parking lots, and this is crazy. Now, I'm going to give you a bonus one. One of my good friends who was a valet of mine for years, I actually just talked to him yesterday. And Reggie, he no longer valet parks with us. He was a great valet over the years. He worked at Bar One and all these other places. But Reggie now drives a limousine, and he owns his own personal Cadillac Escalade that he uses to go to the airport and bring all of these corporate individuals throughout Atlanta and throughout Buckhead. He gets paid well, and I'm proud of him. He's doing a great job. But he's like, hey, Alex, I was in the parking lot the other day, and I had just dropped my client off, and I had my lunch, so I'm eating lunch in my front seat, and my car doors are not locked because I'm sitting in it, and this little kid is just going around trying to open up doors, and he scared me because he opened up my passenger door because he was trying to break into my car. He scared me, but I also scared him because he just freaked out and ran away. But that's what these kids are doing. And what they do, they use kids that are 13, 14, 15 years old because they don't get treated as criminals. They only get treated as children, and they're usually released probably by the end of the time that the cop gets off a shift. So it sucks that this happens. These little kids know they're not getting any long-term penalties for these things. And even if they steal anything or something like that, they're like, oh, he's just breaking and entering and something like that. I hate thieves. Thieves are scum of the earth, and there's honestly no excuse for it. I work very hard for everything I have, much like everybody out there. I'm sure you guys do too. So when someone comes in and tries to steal your stuff, you take it personally. So again, PSA for today is make sure you lock your vehicles. And for those that are valets out there that are training, make sure you watch your environment. Make sure you listen to what's going on and to prevent things as much as possible. Now, I know a lot of times we want to make sure that we're doing everything as much as possible, but you got to be careful and you have to be alert. Your job is not just parking cars, but it's also securing, it's also helping people, it's also customer service. But some of the valets we bring on board, they think we just park cars and that's it. So thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.